folks, welcome back to the Play School. It's me, Phil, again with another piano tutorial. So today we're going to deal with a track from, I don't know, it must be like 2004. It's Somewhere Only We Know by the band Keane. For those of you who know about these kind of things, you might remember it was covered by Lily Allen for a John Lewis Christmas commercial in, like, I don't know, maybe that was 2010. Anyway, all that aside, this is a great track. The chords are deceptively complex if we're going to play them all. I'm going to start with the basic chords, obviously, which are fairly simple, and then we're going to move on later on in the extra jazz to a couple of little variations that are really going to make it pop. So stick around for that, and also there is a full tutorial, full playthrough at the end. Right, so let's do this. So I recommend you take the link below and download the sheet music for this, so you've got it. I mean, it's old school, but print it out so that you can like scribble on it and stuff. That's what I do. And let's look at the intro. So this song's in the key of A. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. White, white, black note, white, white, black note. And then the last step, always the smallest gap on the piano, okay? I think we're pretty much going to use those notes like the whole time. Okay, your intro. Now, let's see. I think I'm going to do the intro as it is, including, you'll see on the music, there's some stuff in parentheses, which we're going to add most of that later. But hey, let's do the intro all in one go. So we're going to start with an A5 chord. Now, 5 chords are so called because they don't know the musical curveball. They're called 5 chords because they only have the 1 and the 5, right? And we are going to start with an A. So our A chord would be A, C sharp, E. And we are actually going to go A, E, and then another A. Let's give you this really like, sound familiar? Okay, so there's your first chord, A5. And then we're then going to go down to an A5, but we're going to drop that bass line down to a G sharp. Now, we could just play it's correct, but it's not quite right. So let's look at this middle note. All we're going to do to give us the, on the music it says A sus4 over G sharp and then A over G sharp. Now, A sus4 has the 5 and the 4, and of course A, we know, is there. So in order to get that feeling, we're going to drop that middle note down. So 2 and 3. 3 on that, 3 on that, 2 on that, making 8 eighth notes, right? 1, 2, 3. Okay, first 2 chords, and our second line is B minor 7. Now, we are going to keep this like this A on the outside, right? That's very much the sound of our intro. Now we're going to come to here. B in the bass, right? And then we're just going to move back up to that D. So that's our move. Right, I'll quickly tell you why this makes B minor 7 is because B minor 7 is B, D, F sharp. If we take the B and drop it 2 half steps, we've got B minor 7 as long as the B is there. So actually, if you think about the hand position we've got ourselves to, we're here. Yeah, so we've got B, D, we don't have the F sharp, but we do have the A, which means because the 5th note, which is what we call the 1, 3, 5, the top note of the chord, if it's in root position, is sometimes optional, sometimes. Okay, so where were we here? Okay, now again, we could just do 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and which is our last 2 chords. So let me deal with those first. We're going to go from our B minor 7, and all we're going to do here, to get to E sus4, same game with E sus4, it has the 1 and the 4, potentially the 5, but those are kind of the important ones, right? Especially since we're over an E. And then to resolve, the 4 comes down to G sharp, which of course gives us our E chord. Again, not playing the 5th. There's quite a lot of that in this piece. sorry. Okay, and that is about to send us around again. Now, what I'd really like you to do when you get to your B minor 7, the reason it says B minor 7 and then in parenthesis B minor 7 is because I just want to take this A, again keeping the middle note and just going up to B to give us a B minor chord, and then back there to make it a 7 again, right? So that first cycle through the chords is going to look like this. By the way, we're starting strong here, right? So I'm going to start with a big, chunky octave left hand, right? I suggest you do the same. Down to G sharp, middle finger, notes. Back up to B minor 7, B, B minor 7, E sus 4, E. Now I'm not going to explain where those like note changes are. Because that would involve a lot of music theory which many people might not know, and if you listen to the song and copy where those changes are, you're going to find yourself in the right place, okay? So that's the first time round. Now the second time round is almost the same, and indeed if you were to play that twice initially, not a problem. But we've actually got a slight change the second time, wherein we go, and now we're actually going to play this chord. That is G sharp and G sharp. I've called it A major 7. I've called it A major 7 because we're going to keep this A here. And then, okay, so I'll put that again for you. We're going to go A5 over A, obviously, and then instead of A5 over G sharp, we're going to come down to this chord. We've got a G sharp there, an A, an E, and a G sharp. It's a bit of an awkward one because it's missing that, but I've called it A major 7 because it's almost there with the G sharp. Okay, and then we're going to go to our A sus 4, and then back to the A major 7 style chord. Right, sounds a bit funky when you play it like that. But if you have a listen. Quite nicely in the context of the whole sequence. And your second time round, we're going to play this the same. To get us into the verse. Let's try that whole thing. 2. Into the verse. Now, in the extra jazz at the end, I'm going to give you all of the notes in parentheses, which turn this from a fairly simple chord progression into a much more interesting one. But for now, let's start with the basics. There's our first chord, nice A. Now this starts really quiet, right? We've come from this massive introduction into what's across. Okay, so think about that. I will be putting the bass note in just to give us a 1. You could just play right hand, even lighter, up to you. So first chord is A, C sharp, E. Now we've got C sharp minor over G sharp, which C sharp minor is going to be C sharp, E, G sharp. Notice we've already got those, means our A just needs to go down to our G sharp, which coincidentally is exactly what our left hand is doing. Okay, then after that we'll have a B minor in root position, using the notes of the A major scale. We'll play B, skip C sharp, play D, skip E, play F sharp. And there's your B minor chord. And the last chord we need for the verse is an E sus 4. Now we're going to be meeting this guy a lot. Let's talk about it in detail right now, and then when we come back to it later, I'll just give you the notes. So E major, E, G sharp, and B, right? Now the 4 here is the actual fourth note. 1, 2, 3, 4. thinking in the E scale very briefly. Now, with most numbers, we add them to the chord. Difference with a sus4 and a sus2, for reasons we will not go into, is we actually swap them for the 3 note, 1, 2, 3, right? That's the 4, that's 2, that's 3, right? So actually we want an A instead of a G sharp. It resolves to it really nicely, which is exactly what we're going to do in this piece. For us, for the rest of this piece, E sus4, E, A, B, right? Now, where was I? Oh yes, B minor. So we're actually going to reach out to an odd shape. It's an odd shaped chord. B, E, and A. There's those 3 notes. And resolving to your E. 1 and 2 and. We can keep this in right now. It's nice and easy. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we're actually going to go there, back to the resolution, and then back to the E sus4 at the end of that. So let's try and put that all in context. Where were we at the end of the... I walked across an empty land. I knew the pathway like the back of my hand. I felt the earth beneath my feet. Sat by the river and it made me complete. Back there at the end. And that's your verse. Right, this next bit I'm calling the pre-chorus. It doesn't lead to the chorus the first time, so you could argue for calling this like a bridge and then the chorus. I mean, it doesn't really matter what we call it. I'm going to call it the pre-chorus, and it goes like this. We have just finished. Now, we're in that odd chord here, B, E, and we want an F sharp minor. F sharp minor, again, using the notes of the A scale. We go F sharp, skip G sharp, play A, skip B, play C sharp. So we were up here. The only note we can keep is this A. So let's do it, right? A, F sharp, C sharp, right? There's your F sharp minor. And we're still pretty gentle at this point. Okay, so F sharp minor. 4 beats there. Now we want a C sharp minor. C sharp minor, again, C sharp, skip D sharp, play E, skip F sharp, play G. Or indeed in the A scale, C sharp, skip D, play E, skip F sharp, play G sharp. So we've got our thumb on that C sharp. Excellent. Now some lovely chords here. We're actually going to come up to a D chord. And it's directly adjacent to your C sharp. Doesn't share any notes. We're just going to come from C sharp minor to major. Right? I often say we don't step up root position chords to root position chords. I guess the reason this one gets away with it is because it's minor to major, not major to major or minor to minor. It just makes it just different enough. So we're on D, F sharp and A for our D chord in root position. And now we've got D6. 6 again, we're just going to add the 6. And now again, think briefly in D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gives us a B. 2, and for this one, we're literally going to add it. Yeah? 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2. And next we've got this E sus4 to E thing happening again, but this time it's an E7. Now, excuse me. Now, let's think about E sus4 to E, E A B to E G sharp B. We're going to do that, but we're going to do it keeping this D, right? So we were here, F D6, sorry. And then it's another really odd looking chord, this one. That's your E7 sus4, and then just your middle note moves down. So it's this chord with the addition of a D. Yeah? Let's take you through those again. So we've got an F sharp, and then C sharp, F sharp minor I should say, and then C sharp minor, and then D, and then D6, E7 sus4, E7. Sounds like sympathy, where have you gone? I'm getting old and I need something to rely on. So tell me when you're gonna let me in. I'm getting tired and I need somewhere to begin. And then first time round, I came across, and we're back into verse 2. Okay, so the last bit of chord work we kind of need to know here is for the chorus, right? So we're going to go round and round the houses, do exactly just what we did, and then this, when we get to the end of the pre-chorus the second time, now, again, there's the real killer bit for me in here is like, is these changing chords. Now I'm going to deal with those at the end. For now, let's just get those like fundamentals in place in our heads, okay? First chord, B minor 7. So, we're here. Now we're so close to a B minor 7 chord here. We are going to keep the D and keep the B and pick up the F sharp there. That's it. B minor in first inversion. Now, our hack for finding 7 chords is that we take the root note wherever it occurs in the chord and drop it 2 half steps, giving us B7, B minor 7. Now, I always just pay attention and notice that this D, F sharp A is a D chord, right? If we put a D chord over a B, we get B minor 7, right? Anytime you notice something like that in a song, it's really good to hold on to that information, because finding D and playing B is potentially a lot easier than finding B minor, inverting it, dropping the top one down and still playing B. You know, and the quickest way you can get to the answer is the best, right? Okay, so there's your first chord. Right, and then next we're going to go to an A/C sharp. We've dealt with slash chords already a little bit, but just to recap, that means that the A chord is not over an A bass, as we would normally do it, it's over a C sharp. Means we get this lovely ascending feeling, right? Okay, so our A chord is it's an expand move away from your pinky. D, down to A, C sharp, E for A, right? Second chord, and then we're going to do the E sus4 to E that we did in the verse. Yeah, so that's B, E, A. We've already got our pinky on the A. In fact, the first thing we need to do here is just drop your thumb, C sharp, down to B, and then resolve to your G sharp. If you have a talk about it somewhere only 3 times. This could be the end of everything. Okay, and then we're going to go to our D6 chord again. Remember this one? D, F sharp, A, B. Again, this like that kind of sound is very like typical of this song. So let's play all 4 notes again. So, yeah, straight to the D6 here, yeah. Now, to finish this off, we are going to go to an E6, right? So, E chord, E, G sharp, B, and the B. Now, if we don't know the E scale, another little hack here, to go from the 5, which we've got in the chord, if we want the 6, it's always 2 half steps up, 5 to 6, right? Now, so we're going to go from D6 to E, G sharp, B. Yeah. And then an E sus4 to E in its root position. Okay. back to D6, and then back up to E6, and then down to D6 again, but still over the E. Know what you're thinking? That was a lot of up and down and back and forth to D6 and E6, and you're absolutely right. But if you follow the music, it should see you quite right. Let's just go back again. So, this could be the end of everything, so why don't we go somewhere only we know? And if you really want to, we can add that little bit. So we've got, and then you're back in. Right. So let me try and play that whole chorus for you. So imagine we've done big chorus, right? If we have a minute, why don't we go talk about it somewhere only we. This could be the end of everything, so why don't we go somewhere only we know? And from there you're into simple things, and you're there again, okay? Right, so that's all the chords, pretty much. Structurally, let's talk about it. Right, we've got intro, verse 1, and then our pre-chorus, which doesn't go to the chorus. Then we have verse 2 and a pre-chorus that does go to the chorus. After we finish our first big chorus, we go back into the pre-chorus again, and then we do a chorus again. And then we have an instrumental. We go round from the second chorus. So we kind of cut that second chorus short. We're going to go, if we have this could be the end of everything, so why don't we go somewhere don't we go? Yeah, so that's right. We've got somewhere, so why don't we go twice, right? We're going from D6, so why don't we go, so why don't we go, and then to the E sus4, to the E in root position, okay? And then we're into a little bit of an instrumental. Which is the same as the chorus, up until we get to where we join back in with the vocals. This could be the end of everything, so why don't we go so far so the same, somewhere only we know. And then we'll drop right down, somewhere only we. Got a bit of jazz at the end from Keane there. Those three chords are E6, right? And then we have E flat 6. So this chord is E flat G, B flat C. And it's exactly what we're doing there is removing that same chord chromatically. So, right, so if you're struggling to remember that E flat 6, this is where we use some notes that are not in the key signature. I knew there was a place. So yeah. So, and that's like a 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, slightly syncopated rhythm there. Yes, so why don't we go, so we. And then the last chords. Somewhere only D6, D, and then an A and add 9. That is an A chord with an added 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But we're going to add it here. Put the E at the bottom. Right? So this could be the end of everything. So somewhere only we know. Somewhere only we know. that is the end. Right, so let's talk about these chord variations that I've put in parenthesis brackets throughout the piece. Now, we did the intro, and the rest, there's a couple in the verse and a couple in the chorus, and it's very much the same idea, right? I'll talk you through them very briefly, but I'm not going to labour that point because I really want you to just listen, copy, and also be aware that probably when Keane played this live, maybe some of those rhythms, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, might be slightly different, you know? So as long as we're in the right ballpark and we've got the right feel, don't worry yourself too much about being exact, okay? So let's look at the verse. We started with an A. Now, what I've written here is E7 over G sharp. Because all we want to do is change that C sharp up to a D, which leaves us with E, D, and G sharp. Which kind of screams E7 to me. And the main thing I want you to remember is that it's the C sharp goes up to a D. Happens twice in the verse. Now, in the pre-chorus, again, just one of these to look at, and it's in our C sharp minor chord. Simple thing, where have you gone? Now, all that happens there is that your G sharp from the top of your C sharp minor chord goes up to an A. Now, the reason I've described that as A over C sharp is because A, C sharp, E, gives us our A major chord, right? So, just want to remember, G sharp up to A. Simple thing, where have you gone? I'm getting tired and I need something to rely on. So tell me where you're gonna let me in, etc. And so that's the pre-chorus, and then in the chorus, this is my favourite bit. It's the first two chords, the B minor 7 and the A over C sharp, and what we're trying to get is this feeling. Okay, with that top note, and that's going to take you from B minor 7 to B minor, because you're taking this A, which is your 7, up to the B, right? Same with this A over C sharp, right? And that makes that, because A to B is the 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like we added at the end. And the A and the B becomes A over C sharp to A add 9 over C sharp, right? And really, that puts you in a really nice position to do your resolution. Yeah, so you've got like, yeah. And that's where you get to the end. If you can throw those in on top of everything else we've learned, you're pretty much playing Keane. As ever, just to point out where I've got the words wrong, etc., you can use the comments below. Have fun with that. Any questions, requests, suggestions, drop me a line. Take it easy. I'll see you next time.